Trust me, I hear it every day.
Welcome back to the Irrelevant Podcast, episode 71. Me and Alex are back today with a guy that we have communicated with, been on the radar with, on the map with, on the Instagram world with for a long time. Barracks. Kyler, thank you so much for coming on today and joining us. We have been trying to get you on for a long time, but we know that your career path and some of the things that you choose to do to your body don't always align with a timely manner of wanting to actually do a podcast. So thank you for finally getting on here. We really appreciate it, man.
Oh yeah, it's great to be here. Yeah, I get busy sometimes, but happy to finally be able to relax a little bit and join a podcast.
So if you don't mind, just go ahead, tell people. We already have an idea of who you are, obviously, but go ahead and just kind of tell people who you are, what you do, and how you came to be on this podcast.
Still waiting for this ghost sponsorship, by the way.
Oh yeah, we didn't do our plug, but that's all right.
I just did.
Daily plug. We're doing it. Well, this is episode 3 until we get a ghost sponsorship. That's the goal.
Hey, keep doing your thing. They'll want to do it sooner.
Hey, we got the 2 face flavors. Look at that. Those guys should sponsor us too.
Yeah.
Even though we don't play video games.
We could start anyway. Sorry, Skyler or Kyler.
I'm Kyler Barracks, currently active duty Marine in the United States Marine Corps. My job titles include scout sniper, infantry unit leader, force fitness instructor, and no longer holding the billet, but combat instructor. I've been in now 14 years, and I've been all over the world. I've been to Afghanistan, Thailand, Philippines, Australia, Japan, doing all kinds of different training. And really just over the years, really loved the process of training. So I started kind of just, researching stuff, found West Side methods, and just kind of went from there. And then just as I branched out, I, met you two, and then here we are.
So West Side's only for equipped powerlifting. What are you talking about?
Oh boy, this is gonna be a good episode. I think I came across. So your company used to be. Remind me, what was your company name? What did it used to be?
It was Big Hog Barbell.
Yes,
Warhog.
Yeah. Okay. So I came across your company. I remember I was in Arizona with AJ, and AJ said, "Hey, there's this crazy guy that is interning at Westside currently, and if you want to see some of like the inside of what's going on for the interns that actually go through Westside, go follow his page." And I was very new to the training scene still, so I didn't even know who to follow or what to follow. So that was kind of nice to see. Like a snippet of like what I'd actually been reading in some of those books, and you were actually living and breathing it at the time. So, what was that like? Like, what was your time at Westside like? What was it like there?
So I didn't actually intern, but I just when I was a common instructor, I got a lot of time off, so I would visit.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect.
But my time at Westside, I remember walking in, and they were already doing some lifts. Like guys had come in earlier than Louis did. And I walked in, and there was a guy standing there. I was like, "Hey, I got a visitor's pass here to meet Louis." He goes, "Oh, hey dude. Yeah, just wait. Louis will probably be in the next 10, 20 minutes. And I was like, okay. And I just started watching him. And these guys are like, "Yeah, I think for the 4th set, warm-up set, I'll do this." And it was like 800 pounds. And it's just, I like couldn't imagine like seeing it in person, because like seeing it on Instagram, you're like, wow, that's a lot of weight. But seeing it in person and just seeing how fast they would lift it up, how just easy it seemed, it just like the videos don't do it justice. Like all the videos that Louis put out, going there and seeing what the athletes could do was like just a different story.
I just know the first time I read the book and I'm reading those numbers and I'm just like, huh? Like, and they're talking about warm up, like what you said, they're talking about what their warm up would be and what 50% would be and 75. I'm just like, I can't even fathom this. Like, I don't even understand. So when Louis gets there, how does the first interaction with you and Louis go?
So Louis just comes in and he like looks straight at me, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Kyler Barracks. I believe Jason Gussick told you about me." He goes, "Oh yeah, you're the Marine stopping by." And I was like, "Yes, I am." He goes, "Okay, how much do you squat?" I was like, "Oh, you're already off the bat." I was like, my best equipped squat is like 700. And he looks right at me and goes, "You'd be some of the weaker with the women, though." And I was like, "Okay."
Oh no.
So I did lift with the women on occasion, but he took a pretty keen interest in me because I told him like, "Hey, I'm going to be here all week, just here to learn this and that." Had a notebook, and I guess a lot of people who visit don't show up with notebooks or anything, so he kind of liked that. But then I remember I did a squat, and he just looks at me and he goes, "Your hips are weak." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I got pretty bad hips, you know." At that time, I was like 11 years in the military, and he goes, "Just come over here." And he takes me to the belt squat. He puts 3 plates on each side. Then he takes a blue band, wraps it around one band peg underneath the machine, and then to the other side. And he goes, "All right, just stand up in this, do belt squat walks, and I'll tell you when to get off." So after barely being able to even stand up with that amount of weight, I proceed to just like kind of lumber in place. And he just leaves. And I'm like, "Okay, well, you know, what, 5, 10 minutes? I can do this." 20 minutes later, he comes back and I am very upset. And he just goes, "All right, now get off." And then he tells me to take the max that I had missed again. And I somehow hit it. I don't know how. I think it was just pure rage at that point. But then he was like, "See, you loosen your hips up, you got them working. Now you can squat. Just do that every day, every time you work out." I was like, "Okay, whatever you say." But that was like my initial impression. And he just he would do stuff like that with anyone visiting. I remember there was someone else that came in later in the week, and the moment he found a weakness, he just thrashed it.
Yeah, there was no hiding behind that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing you pull super wide stance sumo too, like toes, and he talks about it in the book a little bit, how like if your hips are weak, get your toes almost all the way out to the weights and do like super wide sumos. So I remember watching you do those, but I think you were doing like crazy sets and reps with those too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so he was telling me that my issue was mobility, which it was, and so he was like, "You just need to do ultra wide sumos." And I remember I put weight on the deadlift bar, and I put like my toes like literally millimeters away from the plates. And he goes, "Not wide enough." And I was like, "Louis, how am I going to make this any wider?" And he goes, "Watch." He makes me take it all off, and he makes me put a couple clips on the inside of the sleeves and then put the weights on. And then he has me once again get my toes like millimeters away. And I had like 225 on the bar, and I like struggle to pull it up strictly just because like I feel like I'm almost doing the splits. And then he goes, "All right, now I want you to try and get above 300 pounds because you need to do a lot of weight for this to work. Otherwise, you're not stimulating anything." And so he just had me do like, I think 10 sets of like 5 with 315. Yeah.
Good God, my hips would be
Yeah.
screaming. My hips
Oh
would
yeah.
be
I
screaming.
was I was in a lot of pain.
Oh man, Alex, what you got?
I'd probably walk out after that. I'd be like, all right, fuck this. This is fucking stupid. Like, Jesus Christ. That's
Yeah.
fuck. Like, yeah, just as wide as you can. It sounds like a real dickhead.
Yep. Just
How
get as
many
wide
times
as
did you visit West Side? Was it just the one time or
so I did the week. I think like 3 or 4 times I went and visited. One of the times was 100% unannounced, and I just wanted to see what would happen. And but I had played it right because I visited enough times that that time when I showed up, Lou was just like, "Oh, you're here again. Cool." So it was like 3 or 4 times each, like a week at a time, and then like one time for like 4 days that I had to be back right away, so I didn't stay long.
did he torture you every time you went there?
Every time. Like, but he started treating me to breakfast after the first time we met, and he saw, I guess as he would put it, not a pussy. And
So he liked you more than Cooper.
I would say possibly. I don't know
Uh,
if like is a strong word, but he definitely, yeah, every time he found a weakness, he would just make me sit on either a machine or on an exercise, and he would just leave, and then he'd come back and be like, "No, no, 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 more weight," or "No, do it like this," and he would leave again. And like I think one time he hit my tricep so hard, like the rest of the day I was like walking around like this because I did not want to extend them. like, like I was just like, "Yeah, I'll take 20 on pump 5, and they're like, everything okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not
You just
okay.
can't
Just
move.
give me the gas, please.
Now, for the people that don't know, the machines he made were specifically to target all those weaknesses that he found in people, right? Because they're not like when I went on the machines and Mac took me through them, they're not like a machine anybody would ever think of in a regular gym. Like it's not an isolated joint movement whatsoever. It's a fucking entire like full body thing.
Yeah, all the machines he designed, and obviously they have them all there. And Westside still does visits with all the machines. I believe Tom Barry still does it. I do plan on going back just to like see how they've kind of changed the place and get a workout in.
Cast him out, Alex. Cast him. Ostracize him. He's going
Dude,
back.
I mean, I would go, dude. I think they took the wall out of the original one
They
and put
did.
it in the
They
new
have it
building.
framed in
That's
his
so sick.
office, I
That's
believe.
sick.
But yeah, like those machines, they were 100% built Louis did not give a shit about hypertrophy or any type of functionality. He wanted to find a specific motor pattern weakness, and he wanted to fix that thing. So he would design machines around like the motor pattern, like the reverse hyper. He definitely built because of his bad back, but he wanted to be able to hinge again. That's exactly the motion that it works, is the hinge. Whether it's good for your back or not, I'm not going to say. I like doing it, but I also don't use it to keep my back in shape. I do other things, but like he definitely created all those machines, and they are very torturous if you use them correctly.
What was your least favorite machine to use?
I'm going to be honest. The probably least favorite thing he made me do was that I can't. I think it's like MR19 or whatever it's
Oh,
called,
yep. Mm-hmm.
where you do the you like hang and then you pull
Reverse
yourself
squat.
up. Yeah. He put me on that thing, and I didn't think anything of it because the first 2 reps I was like, this ain't bad. And I then found out, your psoas is not exactly a muscle that is used to just fully lengthening and contracting at all times. And it fatigued very fast. And I never wanted to get on that machine again after 20 reps of that thing.
Speaking of the psoas, when you're doing reverse hypers, does your psoas get a pump? Because that's my weak point on doing reverse hypers is I can do them and my back feels fine, my glutes, hamstrings. My fucking psoas gets wrecked to the point where like bracing is still very uncomfortable by the end. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I will say when I did it on the machines that were actually made by Louis, because my reverse hyper was like an off brand. And I don't know if maybe the lengths were different. I never got one on mine, but I did on Louis' machines where I would feel it in my lower abdomen. Uh, I would also though cheat up a lot to where my thighs would smack the pad when it was coming back down, which gave me a little push back. Sometimes that would help, but I do know what you're talking about.
Oh, it feels like my fucking obliques are on fire, but it's deep inside my fucking stomach. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, oh, that's my psoas.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
The worst one, I don't know if not a lot of people have. Donnie Thompson has one, and I was first exposed over at his gym. But Louis has one that's on a chain. It's not on like the stiff pole.
Yeah.
That was probably the worst one. I couldn't even really control a 45 on each side just because like I wasn't used to it because the chain, if you don't swing it up just right, the chain like, loses tension and everything. That one wrecked my lower back.
Yeah, that was the only one I used while I was there out of all the fucking reverse hypers. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'll try this one. And that thing's a motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
And of course, as you know, when it's loaded, you don't get to take weight off of it. Like you just have to use whatever's on there. It's like when I use the back attack, they're like, yeah, just hop on there. I'm like, with that much weight? They're like, yeah, you'll be fine. Like, oh, motherfucker.
Large Banana would like to know, since he missed the start, what was the almost split squat sumo supposed to achieve? Twitch question.
So according to Louis, the ultra wide sumo puts you in a position to where pretty much everything that is either needs to be lengthened or shortened is at the point of like no return, and you're teaching your hips to kind of contract under that area. So that way that your muscles get used to actually holding open that area, and so you can move in it or lift in it or do several different things. So it's supposed to be kind of like strength/mobility thing that Louis likes to do. He will max it out. I would never recommend someone maxing out on that, though you can do it. It is It is somewhat effective. I would throw it in conjunction with normal mobility training or whatever you do. And this would be kind of like your finishing touches. But yeah, the ultra wide sumos is meant to like open your hips up. Same thing with, he does the same thing with box squats. If Louis wants you to gain mobility, he's going to throw a lot of weight on you and he's going to make you stand ultra wide or ultra wide grip, whatever. And he's going to make you lift under that. While it does work, it's also very damaging if you don't do it properly. So I don't usually recommend it unless I know the person can handle it.
Would Louis get pissed at you if you didn't stand straight up on the box squats? Because when Gus taught me how to box squat, it was the most fucked up thing ever. He stood right in front of me, like his dick was almost in my face, type of thing. He's like, "All right, now you got to stand straight up and not lean forward." I'm like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah, don't
Yes.
lean forward."
So yeah, so Louis, he had like the same thing that like once you get on the box and your like feet are like 2 feet in front of you and you're just supposed to just rock it up on the squat. I somehow figured it out. Can I tell you how I figured it out? No, I still don't know how I do it. But I can only do it when I'm in briefs. I know that. I can't do it when I'm just doing raw lifts.
Can you explain the
But yeah,
difference between the gear and raw lifting? Because I got to full experience of that this weekend, and those are two completely different fucking animals. It's not even the
yes.
same. Not even
Yeah.
the same arena.
Yeah.
So geared lifting just means that you're wearing some type of suit, shirt, or something that helps stop you in the bottom of the lift. A lot of the well, I actually have to change this because the new bench shirts do help you lift, but a lot of the misconception was geared lifting was helping you lift, but the old equipment really was just more of a stopping power thing. It helped you bring the weight down and it would tighten up so that once you got out of the bottom, you had built up all this kinetic energy, you could stand up easier. So because it was just canvas, it wasn't really like pulling you back up, it was just helping you stop. So like a squat suit binds up around the hips and back. So that way, when you get to the bottom, you kind of have this spring-like effect, but you're not using all of your muscle tension on the way down. Uh, Whereas raw lifting is like you're just wearing a belt to help you brace, and you're using all your muscles to lift that weight. The difference being is that equipped lifting is like a very technical thing. A lot of people kind of crap on it, but like a raw lift, your body's going to do what it needs to do to lift the weight. Like if you squatted, like everyone in raw lifting, if you look at them, lifts a different way. They arch their back more on bench. They grip closer. They squat wider. They squat narrower. Knees go in and out. Equip lifting, because of the way the equipment is, you have to do it a certain way. So it becomes very technical, which is kind of the fun part of it in its own right. So like that's the big difference. Usually, the main thing people wear on the squat are a set of briefs, which is just like these high waisted underwear that's made of canvas. You wear those, and then you put a canvas squat suit singlet over it, and then that together binds up in the bottom of the squat. Same thing for the deadlift, and then for the bench, you get a bench shirt, which just basically is a shirt that pulls your arms here. So when you get to here, it tries to rocket you back up to here.
Now, because they stop, like you're saying, and they bind up, how much harder is it to get to the correct depths in these things? Because, like at the meet I was at this weekend, they would get to what their handler would say was depth. And what I learned is that they're cueing them for where, because, like, at the bottom, you're supposed to dip so you can spring back up.
Mhm.
So they're yelling fucking, depth, and they're not actually at depth, but that's where they need to actually drop like another inch so they can then come back up, right?
So depending on the suit, a lot of it, so like Inzer has like this Leviathan where you can like string it up and like adjust it based on your body size. But a lot of it depends on like if you got the suit to fit right or the shirt, how much you've actually like broken it in, because like a brand new shirt's going to be a lot stiffer than like an older shirt. But it can be pretty tough as you're learning the shirt. But I would say once you get good at equipped lifting, as soon as you put on the suit, you should know if it's going to allow you to hit depth. And if it is, you should always be able to hit depth unless you're breaking in a new suit and you're just trying to stretch it out. In which case, you're intentionally not hitting depth to kind of groove the suit to form the way that you want it to form. but it can be rather challenging. Um, Equip lifting, squats a little high, like that's like not a new thing. And that's just strictly because it got to the point where like they started making suits thicker, thicker, thicker. And at some point, like getting to parallel on a squat just like wasn't feasible anymore.
Is that why you see so much of the wide stance, hips open, knees out, kind of squatting? And because it kind of helps doing that kind of style of squat in the suit? Is that what's more beneficial behind it? And that's why, like, Alex, for example, I'm watching Alex squat at the Nationals, and every guy before him is like hips open, wide stance, straight down, straight up. And then Alex goes to the damn cellar on his squats. And I'm just like, oh, well, okay, well, he's never going to get called for depth. But some of those other guys I'm watching, and I'm just like, well, I mean, compared to what I just saw him do, I don't know, so it was interesting to watch.
The wide stance, depending on how you set your suit, definitely does help bind it up faster. The big thing is that like the reason that equipped lifting gets away with the squats that it does is because of the rules. If I only have to squat right to this point, why would I go down to here? You know what I'm saying? So that's what a lot of it is. The wide stance helps you achieve a better looking squat to where like you get down to that point and it looks like, the knee is above the hip crease or whatever they're looking for, and then back up. That helps with wide stance. The reason you can't do it in raw is because if you tried to squat that wide raw, you'd probably one, injure your hip, and then two, like you don't actually have a lot of that power bouncing back up as you do with like an equipped squat.
Yeah, Alex, you were using that to your advantage. The nice little bottom out, boom, go. So.
Man, the lady on the board was like, "Hey, that's a beautiful squat. I really hope you don't ever expect anybody to squat that deep while you're reffing."
Dude, it's so funny if you watch yourself. It's fun to watch you in sequence because, like I said, it's like, okay, wide stance squat. Okay, wide stance. Okay, this person just barely hits. Okay, and then Alex literally, you comes in and it's just like ass to grass. And it goes back to like this little, so it's just this funny break. Everyone in the whole thing that's watching has to be like, what the hell is this guy doing? It's so funny to watch. It made me laugh.
Funny is I practiced all prep to not go below depth.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. I mean,
that adrenaline gets going.
Yeah, it's
and the knee sleeves work better the more knee flexion you get. So it's like, might as well take advantage of that.
Yeah, it was so funny. I'm in church watching. I'm sitting in church watching the powerlifting competition. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I gotta watch Alex squat." And she's like, "No, put it away." And I'm like, "I'm not putting it away." And so when that happened, I like audibly laughed during the middle of a sermon. And she looks at me and she's like, I'm like, oh God, I'm a terrible human. I'm watching a powerlifting competition in the middle of church. But
you're like, I'm watching my other church in church. Okay. Leave me alone.
Man, it was so funny.
How's that any different than guys trying to rush out of church to watch an NFL game?
Oh, it's not. So she was like, you can watch them squat, but when they move on, you turn the phone off. And I'm like, okay, sounds fair. So I think I watched two of your squat attempts. I missed the first one, I think. So that's why I was kind of asking, but.
The first one, I fucking almost fell forward because my feet were behind me instead of in front of me because of the monolift. I got to the top and I like started teetering forward. I'm like, you better put those fucking racks down.
Yeah. The one thing about like, when you equip squat is like, you get out of groove on a raw squat, you can kind of like pull yourself back in because it's all your own muscle strength. Either you're strong enough to lift it or you're not. But when you're going like hundreds of pounds over what you should mechanically be able to lift and you're just relying on canvas, if that thing gets out of balance, you're pretty screwed.
I saw that with some benches, when it goes back towards their face. That's the most terrifying shit in the world.
Oh yeah, because that's coming crashing down because there's not where most people kind of like hold it and they're like, take it. It's just
yeah. You got to have some damn good spotters when it comes to that, for sure. That's why people are like, you ever have any desire to do like that kind of equipped lifting with the bench press? I'm like, no, I have no desire to put that amount of weight over my head like that. No shot. And misgroove it.
Story. Yeah. So funny story that I actually had that happen to me at Westside when I was using the shirts. I had brought the new, at the time it was new, the new Rob Farrell shirt. And Louis at the time was he told me, he was like, if you have any equipment here, it's got to be Inzer. I'll loan you some equipment. Uh, Otherwise, you can't use it because my Inzer sponsorship gets upset. And I was like, okay, I guess I won't bring this out then. And he saw it and he was like, is that one of the new ones? And I was like, yes. So he made me bring it in so everyone could, who was my size, could use it because he wanted to see it. And he instantly called Inzer and was like, I don't give a crap. We're using this shirt. But I went up and I misgrooved it and it came back on my face. It was like, I want to say 500 pounds. I still got the video. And they just pick it up and one of the guys goes, well, that happens. And then also you just hear Lowy, go down and take it again. Just go down. Just you'll get that easy. Just go down and take it again. And I'm just thinking, like, I literally just about got killed not 10 seconds ago. And I'm about to get under this and do it again. And sure enough, I hit it. So I think Louis just actually had like a contract with a demon that anyone who came into his gym be successful because I tried to replicate a lot of the things that he does in like my home gym. It just it wouldn't work out. I would say it's probably the atmosphere, the amount of support of like people you got, but yeah, it's didn't quite work out when I would try and replicate it.
Well,
West Side Voodoo is what it is.
yeah. I will say I do notice that, like, because you're in your home garage gym a lot of the times, I can see you doing some pretty maniacal stuff and doing some things that I'm like, well, I'm going to question his sanity when he does do that. And so I would say you were doing a pretty good job of trying to replicate that voodoo on your own. But what are some of the things that you felt like you can't take from West Side and bring it into like a training environment of your own or in a garage gym? Is it purely atmosphere, or is it just, what's that missing piece you feel like that's the most detrimental to doing something like that?
I want to say it's like an atmosphere and like people because like even when I go to like a gym and I have like I'm bringing a friend or something, like if they're not on my level, uh it just like it's not the same. Like we'll get a good lift in and like we'll do stuff, but like at Westside, I don't know, it felt like I was at like a selection process for the Marines, like literally the entire time I was there. Like we're pushing each other and like at the end of the day, like people are like screaming, like sweating, just like look like they're about ready to die. And then they just look at each other, hey, let's hit another set. And like that's just something like when you're on your own, or if you're not with people who are like that dedicated to it, it's just not the same. And I know there's a lot of gyms out there that can replicate that feeling. I've visited a few that have like that same mentality, and they're usually kind of the same way with West Side, that privatized, like we only come here as a group. It's not really like an open gym type thing. But I would just say that atmosphere, it's hard to replicate, and you can't replicate it if you're on your own. Like I would blast metal, get all juiced up, friggin' hit the ammonia, and still at the end of the day, I'm just like, yeah, I still just wasn't as amped as I would have been if I had someone, shaking the shit out of me, going, hey, get ready for this, and then slapping me across the face.
How do you think you have a different level mindset? You and I do not think the same. We are not. I will admit that out loud. I don't think we have even close to the same mentality. Yours is above and beyond. I think we were talking about the other day with squats or something when you told me something that you had to do. When I was like, yeah, I want to do squat. This, deadlift's hard. And you're like, yeah, 10 by 10 squats isn't hard when you have to do like some kind of 16-mile run or something like that. Yeah. So like your mindset's completely different than mine. But like I do a lot of kids. I do a lot of work with youth and kids. And like, what do you think as a coach is a good way to kind of instill that like never die, never quit, die under the bar kind of mentality to try to push yourself? Like, how do you go about training that in people, especially the youth, because they need it?
So that's honestly a good question. And I don't think I've gone over because I have people in the Marines who I kind of deal with this same kind of mentality where it's like, out of 10 of them, 3 of them, I can, try and run them to the sun and back. And then the only thing they'll complain about is the sunburn. And then I got others that just as soon as they got to boot camp, they were like, this isn't for me. What have I done? I need to get out of here. I'm going to do the bare minimum, if even the bare minimum, and get out. For people like that, you'll never be able to help them. But to get to the other ones, it's just exposure over time, bonding. A lot of that, and it takes time. Like I've always told people, like this die under the bar mentality, mental toughness is some people like it only comes with time, because I don't care how mentally tough you are. If I take a guy who has never put a 40-pound pack on and tell him to run 16 miles, but he's the toughest son, like he's been to West Side, he's trained West Side for 16 years. That guy's not going to be able to, do it, even though he is probably pretty mentally tough. You get in that gym with him and he can keep going and going because his performance level just isn't there. But over time, he'll be able to push a little bit further and further and further. And then he will start, being able to just continuously push himself when it seems like he won't be able to push anymore. But the biggest thing that like you want to teach them is just like be there for each other. Like when you get that atmosphere going on and when it's like someone is encouraging you, like, hey, I know you can get this. Let's friggin' go. Let's do this. That's what starts building the mental toughness, because then when they do it, it's kind of like a reward system. Like he believed in me. I didn't believe in myself. Now I know I can do it. And then the next time when they don't have that reaffirmation, they go, I did it back then. I can do it now. So it transfers to them. So that's what I've usually found is like you just need that support system,
Right.
and slowly but surely it'll build into that mental toughness.
I'm training some high school kids this summer and they've never touched barbells ever. And these girls today, like we were talking about mentality and mindset, because they hate bench pressing. They hate it. And I'm like, you got to win it right here. This is where you win it first. It's like, it's not a physical thing right now. It's like, you guys have got to find a way to create the energy, create the enthusiasm, create the effort. Then when you get under the bar, you're not going to lose. And like, they were flat out screaming at each other to get the weight up on some of these sets, and just like encouraging and like emphasizing, like, get it up. And like sets that these girls thought like, oh, I can't do that. Cause their first set they'd miss. And I'm like, well, you're not, it's right here. And like, they'd do one rep, they'd come right back after their rest, and next set they'd get 4. And they'd be like, they have this like aha moment. And I'm like, yeah, like that's what it's about. Like you have to create this kind of mentality about yourself to where it's like, I'm going to get this freaking weight up. Even if I don't, I'm going to do it. And it is hard. It takes time and it takes trust, I think, too, to like develop that in kids. But man, when it clicks, they're like, holy moly, this could be really cool. So yours is a little different. I feel like on the military side of things, it's more like you kind of have to do this type of thing and there's no excuses about it. Or is it more of like you have some give and take or leeway?
Honestly, I don't think it all is that difference. I think that they're just slightly older. You got to remember, like guys I'm training, like especially when I was a combat instructor, like the average age of guys coming through sniper school were 19,
Right.
20, and 21. So like, it is different in the sense that like at sniper school, like that is a place that you have had to earn your spot to go. So it's like there's a little bit more of an incentive. It's like comparing a person who like is just trying to get in shape for the summer versus a professional athlete who gets paid to do this. So like there is a difference there, but I just honestly think that like as long as you keep that constant like support group feedback, it works itself out. The mental toughness will come. The ones that just don't have it in them, they slowly go out of it. They won't keep up with it. The ones that do love that stuff will continue to do it even after they get out of, like, let's say they don't play softball, volleyball, or whatever sport they're training for anymore, but they'll keep lifting because they remember those good memories from that.
It's about life. That's what I told him today. I'm like, or not. I mean, I learned more about you in here than I'd learn about like what kind of character you have, what kind of life you're going to live, how tough you are. I learned more about that right here than I care less about how it really applies to your sport. It's like, what kind of human being are you going to be? You guys show me a lot every day of like what kind of human you're going to be. So there's so much life skill transfer there for sure. Alex, you got anything?
Just thinking, I actually broke a kid with SSB the other day. The president of the club.
Oh no, this poor
fucking
kid
has
this
such
poor
strong
kid.
legs. It's not even funny, but his upper back and we took like 3 attempts at 555 for a double the other day. He's like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, well, your back is weak. Fucking quit being a bitch. And finally on the third one, he just got pissed off and did it. And it was a little ugly, but I was like, look, he did it. He's like, yeah, but it was shit. I was like, dude, that was 30 pounds under your squat comp max on a different bar for a double. Like, that's a pretty big accomplishment. He's like, oh, but yeah, What variations do you find, Kyler, that just break people like that? Because the SSB seems to fuck everybody who's never used an SSB before.
Oh man, if your athlete's watching this right now, he's just thinking to himself, why did he ask that? Why did he ask that question? That poor kid.
Oh, that poor kid's got to do. He's got to do seated good mornings with the SSB coming up soon.
Yeah.
I saw the fucking conjugate strong guy doing them. I'm like, oh, that's what you're doing.
Yep.
So my personal favorite variation, if I truly want to like incite some growth, and anyone who's ever trained with me, if I say incite some growth, that is my code word for I'm going to torture you in order for your body to just be so shocked it will adapt or die. But I do enjoy front squats. I've noticed that is just the one that breaks most people the most often because they never do it. And it's a great exercise because it not only enforces leg drive in your regular back squat, but it also enforces leg drive in the deadlift for conventional. So I use it as kind of a twofer to get both kind of stronger off the floor or in the hole. But I just know anytime I say, like the other day, I have this intermediate bodybuilding program that I sell, and nearly everyone who was in my platoon bought it because they want to get big and juicy for the summer. And it was like week 4, I think it was a 10 by 10 with 1 1/4 front squats, which means you go down, you come like a quarter of the way up, then you go down and you go back up. 10 by 10.
So you're really doing like 15 reps.
Sadistic. Yeah. This man is, that's what I'm talking about right there.
And it was that day, it was a Monday. My phone just started blowing up and I look and they had all gone to the gym roughly at the same time. And it was just all messages of what the fuck is wrong with you? And I go, but did you die? And that's all I really said. And now they're all just like, hey, can I run it again when I get done with this? And I was like, yeah, you can. I'm pretty sure you have it for a whole year. So do it again. So again, like they got that exposure to it. Now they want to do it again.
Dude, kids hate front squat. Like when we front squat as like an accessory or something like that, they're just like, why? Like, why do you hate us so much? And it's because they suck at it really bad. And I'm like, well, you need this. Your upper back's weak as piss too.
Yeah. I do not allow front squats. Like if you're going to do a front squat in my program, it is always ass to grass. Like there's no box. There's no halfway down. I think it was like 2 years ago. I was like, if I'm ever going to do a front squat, it's only ass to grass because that is the most beneficial point. And that is also the point that everyone avoids.
I'm going to shit on front squats for a second because the limiting factor in the front squat is never what your legs can do. It's only what you can fucking hold.
Yep. 1000%. Yeah.
100%.
That's why kids hate it because kids are always like, I can't, it's just, I don't know what to, and I'm like, well, figure it out. Like I don't.
Buy a transformer bar and put it on the front squat setting. Then you get rid of that whole problem.
I do that a lot with kids with the SSB.
So I did something similar and the kid hated me when I did it because so like the lifting straps, right? Where you loop and then you wrap it around. So he had those and he was just like, same thing. He was here and he was like, I can't, my wrists. He was like, and I don't like this version. Because I can't hold it. I was like, okay, let me see your lifting straps. And he thought I was going to, let him out of it. And I just looped him around and was like, hold it like this. And he did an ass to grass. It was beautiful. And he was just like, as soon as he racked it, he was like, I'm actually real upset that was pain free because I know you're now going to expect me to do it all the time. And I was like, yes, where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh my goodness. Where did you get
I'll go ahead. Go with the front squat's good for building the upper back. Shit for your legs.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Where'd you come up with a lot of the 10 by 10 stuff? I think I kind of know where you got a lot of that maybe, or maybe I don't. 10 by 10, 8 by 8, 6 by 6. Why do you love the 10 by 10 in some scenarios, or why do you give it to someone, or what's the purpose behind some of that high volume stuff that you do?
So a lot of that, so like if you read Westside or even like Matt Winning, like he'll do his deloads like on 10 by 10s, and then Westside does the 6 by 6, 8 by 8 and stuff. I actually, when I was in high school for wrestling, felt I needed to be able to burst out strength for longer. So I just started doing 10 by 10s on my own on everything. Not the right answer, but like I remember I had one upper body workout where I did a 10 by 10 on each body part and starting with the bench press. And I ended up being one of the strongest in my weight class for my high school, and I was stronger than the weight classes three above me, all the way up to like 205 or 215 was it? Yeah, 215. I was stronger than that guy, and I equate it to my 10 by 10s, and just since then, it's just like one of those things. It's like my favorite exercise. Do I really think that it's this super secret like hypertrophy or like way to gain strength? No, I just like it, and I'm a sadistic person. If I like it, I want you to like it too.
We will
Isn't the 10 by
never.
10 German volume training technically?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's German volume training. That's where I got it. Was like I just looked online, like how to become stronger. And the first Google article, can't remember what year it was. I think it's 2006. Was check out German volume training, 10 by 10, and then it showed like a picture of some huge yoked German dude like posing, and I was like, I got to be that way. So that's me.
There's a guy out in Oklahoma, not too far from here. The Map Clinton. I don't know if you've seen their page, Map Clinton, maybe Austin, Maine. I don't know if you've heard of him, but they're doing their summer stuff. Their summer off-season work is all like German volume training and 10 by 10s. And he listed out what they were doing the other day, and I was like, oh my God, those poor kids. They have no idea what they're about to walk into, and it's just relentless. He's so relentless with those kids and just throws so much volume on them in the summer because it's like this is the only time I really get a chance to push volume super high and see because they're mainly in season most of the time, and so
Oh yeah,
it's
you can't interfere with the sport.
no, and I'm just like, man, that is one way to look at it. That's for sure. Holy cow! Which we push volume up here in the summer a lot too, but it's like I've never thought
That's
of
a
doing
lot.
that. Yeah, never thought of
So
doing that.
yeah, that kind of reminds me of like kind of like what we were talking about the other day. Like, oh, 10 by 10 doesn't seem so bad when you've done this. And it's like the same thing. Like you go to other training styles and all of a sudden it's like, well, I remember doing this horrible 10 by 10 workout. Uh, and you know, I'm doing this now. I don't really remember the pain from it because your mind doesn't really channelize pain that way, but I do feel like I can keep pushing on this because I could keep pushing on that one. And that's where I honestly think this is why I kind of the one thing I hate about training Marines is they are so used to just getting slayed, they no longer know what their RPE scale is, like at all. It's either a 1 or it's a 10, and they don't know anything in between. And the 10 usually equates to them nearly dying. And that's why so like I like doing that stuff, but when you have the perception of I've done this so I can do this, like for me, I've gotten rhabdo 4 different times where I've had to be hospitalized, and three of those times three of those times
God.
was just me going, I can do more. Like it's not that bad because I've done things like, ruck run until like my legs give out, lift something above my head till my arms literally want to fall off. And so now whenever I go into training, my RPE scale is all screwed up because like what might be like a 7, what I would say, oh yeah, that was definitely 7, was more like a 9.
Yep.
And so that's the dangerous part about mental toughness training, which is why when I see like coaches just going like, yeah, we're going to do sprints till people throw up. It's like, hey, that's great. They will be mentally tough because they have that to recall back on and they'll be able to push through. But now they might push themselves into the point where it's like, oh, I can go till I throw up again. And now this time they go until they pass out.
Lord Rhabdo fourth. Can you explain to people what that is that don't know? Like Alex and I understand, but like for the people who don't actually have a freaking clue what that even means or entails, can you give them a little bit of insight into what that is?
Okay, so rhabdomyolysis is like a form of stage 2 heat injury, which is heat exhaustion. Uh, it is where you basically have begun to dip into all your reserves in your body during an exercise. Or let's say maybe your reserves just aren't up because you're under recovering. And so muscles begin to start tearing in much larger fashion, getting into your bloodstream. It starts eating away at the muscles too to get what they need to fuel the continued exercise. And it starts getting into your blood and it starts going into your kidneys. And then your liver starts secreting creatine kinase to kind of help combat that, break down all the muscle tissue and overflow it overflows your bloodstream, and then basically your liver goes into failure, your kidneys start shutting down, and then a lot of follow-on stuff with heat exhaustion starts coming up, like your brain starts frying, your temperature's way too high, so like organs start frying. It's very bad. I'll tell you, each time I've been taken to the hospital for it, your normal creatine kinase levels, which is CK levels. I remember the first time I went, he was like, "Do you know what creatine kinase is?" I was like, "I sure do, doc." And he goes, "Do you know what normal levels are?" I was like, "Oh, no." He goes, "It's like anywhere between 200 to 1,000, 1,000 being like you just got done working out." I was like, "Cool. What are mine at?" He goes, "They're at 6,000."
God dang.
Oopsies.
Oh, I messed up, Doc. I'm sorry.
I was like, "Oh, is that bad?" He goes, "Yes. I don't know if you've looked in the mirror, but you are starting to turn yellow."
Wow.
Oopsies.
Oopsies.
Now I don't know if anybody caught it, but there's only one of those times that somebody else made you get rhabdo. Wasn't that just recently when you were going through training?
Yes. So I went to Special Forces selection 2 days before finishing. I unfortunately did not make it, but I collapsed and could not get back up. And again, this was like this is why I say like the perception piece is so dangerous, because I knew I was tired. I knew I couldn't move as fast as I wanted to, but they lift this apparatus off me and I collapsed and I didn't feel a thing. And when they took me finally off to the side, they sent me to the hospital, and the hospital was like, "You have rhabdo." And I literally told the doc, "I do not have rhabdo." I remember the last time I had rhabdo. It was very painful. I don't have rhabdo. And again, my CK levels came back at like 7.
Good Lord. Like, I don't have rhabdo, but I have it, but I've already experienced. So I'm just like, no, I
Yeah.
don't. That is unbelievable. Holy cow. Can you give us any insight into special forces training, or what you can or can't tell us, or like
Yes.
what that experience is like for anyone that
So
might
the
be interested
experience,
in that career path?
so I can't tell too much,
Right,
but
right.
I will say this. The stuff that you do there is what it is it's constant. Uh, so like when you get there, there's like 3 phases. There's like this physical challenging phase, which is all individual, and they're just running you through a gauntlet of physical tests, ruck running, obstacle courses, stuff like that. And individually, everything that we did was like, to me, was just like, oh, just another day. But as it kept continuing every day, it just started compounding. And I remember it was during like week 2, we had moved on to the next phase, which is like a land navigation thing. I was like, I'm trying to run, but my legs won't go any faster. That's when I knew I was like, okay, I'm fatiguing. And just as it went on, we got to the last phase, which is a little odd. Same thing, but now team-based stuff. Um, it just came to the point where like I couldn't pick up any weight. I remember everything was very painful for me when I'd pick it up, and I was like, okay, my body wants me to put it down instantly. That's not normal. I should be able to carry this weight. And yeah, it just came to a head. And I think a lot of it was uh, is I did too much too early. My first phase, I went balls to the wall. I was like, I'm gonna ace all these tests, and then like as things started compounding, I had no juice in the last little bit. For anyone listening, though, if you plan on going to selection, do not sandbag in, because they will notice when you do that. But just remember, there is another test around the corner. So maybe instead of that 110%, maybe give like 90 to 93% of your actual effort.
Good night.
So do you think the problem was you not being able to self-regulate that well, or do they need to maybe revise the way they do this shit and make it a little bit more scientific?
Ooh.
So I'm not a Green Beret. So like anyone who is in the Green Berets, the military is like a big, like if you're not part of the group, you don't get to speak on it kind of thing. Uh, I will say my personal opinion is one of the briefs we got when I went to SFAS was we have ran SFAS the way it's ran, and it's worked since 1970. that in my mind says like, okay, I understand, but maybe it's time to update a few things. And I have buddies who I went to high school with who were in the Green Berets who also say that they are currently doing it. So they are currently, I guess, updating. I don't know if they have already. Do I think some things need to be updated? I think the tests themselves should be. However, the fact that I got rabbed out means that it works. A selection should at no point be scientific, I would say, because the only thing that you're there to test is if this person is worthy of being in your group. So there's kind of like, don't just kill them to kill them, but also like, I need to test your like actual toughness, because when you get out there, we're an elite group of people. You're going to be on your own. I need to know that you're going to be able to last through this stuff and that you're not going to mentally quit or your body's not going to quit.
Is how, if you can answer, how many people get selected to try this, and then how many do they take?
So no one, you don't have to be selected to try it.
Okay,
You just
gotcha.
call up a recruiter, an SF recruiter. They have the same thing in the Marine Corps, Marine Raiders.
Yeah.
I also tried out for that and did get selected. Unfortunately, the Marine Corps did not let me pursue that career path afterwards.
Dang Marines.
They just don't let you, they control your whole life. But anyway, you just call up the recruiter, you go, hey, I want to try out. And then the recruiter is kind of responsible for making sure that they're not sending trash to selection. But typically from RSOC, the class size I went to started with 180, I want to say. We went to phase 2 with 120, and then they selected 50.
Wow.
At SFAS, we started with 430. And then I believe they ended with 98, and then they selected 32.
Gosh. Holy cow.
And that number changes quite frequently. The reason being is because they don't go off of like this set baseline standard that like people have to like either be above or below. They set a standard for each class, and then like if the class average for a runtime is this, if you're up here, you're doing good, even if like they would prefer everyone be up here,
right?
Because they feel like there's things that can improve, but who's the best out of this group, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So like they have their standards, but they also like take the class average into consideration, unless you're an officer. If you go out for any type of special operations and you're an officer, you are compared to every officer to ever go through that pipeline.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So like recruiters have told officers like lieutenants. I remember back in my day, I don't think they are quite this strict anymore, but I know when I went through, if the lieutenant didn't have a perfect physical fitness test score, which is a sub 18-minute 3-mile run, back then 100 crunches in 2 minutes, and then 20 pull-ups. If you weren't above all that, he turned you away. He was like, you're not even going to be that for selection.
Yeah. So can you physically prepare for this? You said it's not really a science thing at that point. It doesn't sound like a science thing, but
yeah. So I tell people like to prep for selection, you need to get your performance level so high that as it degrades through the selection, you still have more in the tank to give as you go through. So like a lot of it is just like exposure to things that maybe you're not used to. But as long as you're training to be, have very good cardio, decently strong and decently fast, like you're on like some good train tracks right there. The big thing that gets a lot of people from RSOC, pool. A lot of people don't like get uncomfortable in the water, especially with how they do it, because they're going to make you go under the water and they're going to keep you there, see what you do. That's what gets a lot of people. What also gets a lot of people is the amount of time you have a ruck on your back. So I always tell people like you need to get rucking, and I never tell them to run. Like I don't need you running. If I can get you to run a decent amount of time without a ruck, I know you're going to be able to do good with a ruck, but I don't need you breaking down because your shoulders are in pure pain like 2 days in. So like those are the kind of things that like help prepare you. which is just
What are you telling me
exposed.
for? I fucking hate Ruck.
This guy
Terrible. I
gave
was
me.
gonna say,
I think he gave me the thing that you told him to do, and I understand the shoulder. Don't do it all the time thing because your shoulders are gonna fall off. I'm like,
did you do carries with the Ruck? And the
Yes, you
sled?
mother.
Yeah. You think that's bad? Fucking carry a yoke while you pull the sled, pussy.
I don't have a yoke, but yeah, that would be interesting as well for sure. God, dude, my traps hurt for 3 days. I was like, son of a bitch.
You don't have
So
any.
carrying a
No.
yoke while wearing a ruck is actually has a huge significance for anyone going to selection.
Yeah.
That'll be my one tip.
Odd.
A
I mean,
very-
if you don't have a yoke, you could always just carry the SSB.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
SSB.
literally, yeah, that's what my next thought was. It's like, why don't I just throw this damn bar on my back from this point on and just start going? But
Yeah,
God.
and
But
farmers
you
carry
wanna
and a ruck
be-
and a sled. You're good.
you want to have your yoke or bar. I honestly would say use an axle bar too if you're going to combine it with a ruck,
God.
just because of the similar circumferences. You want to be near the 250 to 600 pound.
Total weight? Holy moly. I think I wasn't
If
anywhere.
you get near 600, find a partner, but those are comparable weights to.
Would you say that instead of CrossFit being the fittest on earth, it sounds like these special forces guys would crush all the CrossFit game stuff?
I
Ooh.
would say no, strictly because of the stuff that CrossFit has you do is like odd stuff like handstand walks, Olympic lifting. That's where people like usually lose the mark. Stuff like rope climbs, yeah, some of these special operations guys can go to mark, but also it's kind of weird because like I can be in shape and be good at like obstacle courses, but if I want to be really good at this specific obstacle course, I probably have to continuously do that obstacle course. And so like the only thing that like the special operations guys are missing is just like kind of like the context of the competition. I feel like if you gave them like just 3 months of just like, hey, you're gonna go represent the Marine Corps at the CrossFit Games, and they pick their like fittest operators, yeah, they would kill it. They would be like.
And we need to have
10.
the CrossFit Games do that. We need to have the CrossFit Games be normal people
Let's do it.
versus the military special forces guys and see
Let's
what
do
happens.
it.
And some of them though too, it's like they're also like so broken that they can't compete like that, and
That's fair.
that's like another thing. But I would say it's a comparable level of fitness depending on which area of the job that you're in. Because some people, like kind of where I'm at now, it's like I'm in a position where I'm like at the desk, I tell guys what I need done, and then they go do it, and then I go back to making sure that like all their stuff is in line. They're getting food, they're getting water, the next training evolution set. So like I don't need to be in as good a shape, even though I try to be as the guy who's getting ready to go out, do the mission and do the training.
Now we just pump them full of drugs. And we have super.
I wish.
Yeah.
Who do we pitch that to?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. I wish until it's not federally illegal, the Marine Corps will never sign.
So you're saying before 1990 they were all juiced, is what you're telling me?
Possibly, yes. 1970. So my dad, funny story is, it doesn't start with me. My dad was a Vietnam vet. He, like in the unit that kind of turned into like the boat SWIC for the SEALs. In Vietnam, he's got a Bronze Star with a V. He was crazy in that crazy stuff. Worked with MAC-V SOG and units of the like. If you want to know about MAC-V SOG, look it up because I can't do it justice. But he told me he did a lot of roids when he was younger.
I bet.
I mean, it only makes sense when they're watching Captain America and all of a sudden they inject him with super serum and he just turns into a free. Like, what are we talking about here?
But an upstanding citizen.
I mean,
call it a serum and you're a superhero. Call it steroids.
The
and you're
Germans
the villain.
synthesized testosterone at first, and it wasn't for the normal people. So it kind of makes sense, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was telling people when if they caught me with it. Like, this ain't steroids; it's a serum.
Yeah.
Doing my own clinical studies. Here we go.
Yeah. I just don't have the like rays that he shot him with.
Do they let people in the military do TRT? Is that a thing?
They do, but you have to go through pretty big holes to get it. And the problem with TRT is like especially in my job, like when you go out to the field, like
What are you gonna do?
sanitary issues if you bring it, how long are you going to the field, and how many injections are you going to miss, or even if you do it orally, like can you keep your good schedule? That's probably the biggest thing that keeps the military in general from just trying to create super soldiers,
Checks out.
is just the viability of keeping it up once they send us to go do our thing.
Hmm. How about the food project that's all in the news right now? That all this processed food and things like, or what is it? I can't even.
Lab grown meat.
Yeah, the lab grown meat thing. Is that going to trickle down your way, or are you going to feel any effects upon any of that stuff, or is that really a big a deal as they're making it to seem?
Have you ever had an MRE?
No, I have
I
not.
I, I feel like if they gave us lab grown meat, we wouldn't even notice
No
those
kidding.
things. I swear they've probably already been doing it. They're just now like, yeah, we're thinking about it.
They're just covering their tracks now. It's just this is the publicity just to cover the tracks. Yeah, I know it gets blown up in the media and like everyone was like freaking out about it. So I didn't know if it was like that big of a deal or if it's probably anything that anyone's concerned about or if it's what it looked like from your standpoint. Because anytime anyone talks military, it's always like I hate listening to military takes from people and things like that. It's because like you're not in it, you don't know, you don't have a clue. Like just stop. And then so I'm always curious what your takes are or what you like what you think when people start talking about that kind of thing.
So my take in on it is like lab grown meat probably causes cancer. I don't know. But if I'm like, let's say, World War III pops off and I'm in, some island or friggin' Ukraine, wherever the heck they end up sending us. Uh, and I just need food. I'm not going to be picky. Like if lab grown meat is how you keep us fed on a regular basis, so I'm not starving and, scalping Russians for food, then cool. Do it. If I go to my regular day-to-day breakfast, lunch, and dinner chow hall and I see something that you just lasered onto the plate, I'm going to be very upset. Like,
Right.
give me the real stuff when we're not doing anything. But
Sure.
yeah, I think it just depends on the context. I'm not really a big fan of it, but at the same time, if like the logistical needs of the future fight are like one of the biggest concerns for just like not even just us, like China and Russia. Like you see Russia going on over there, they're having logistical nightmares. Like if it's a means to an end, I'm all about it.
He said future war, Alex. You heard that context, right?
I know. How long before it just turns into robots? Because like, don't they have jets now that are fucking AI and they're better than any living pilot that is existing? Like when they play war games and shit.
Perhaps.
I love this because it's like, yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Oh man.
I mean, I've seen the DARPA robot that can jump around and fetch stuff for you. So it's like, okay. And then have you seen China? They put the fucking guns on the goddamn dog robots that DARPA had. Like,
oh, funny story. I'm gonna take a dig at China real quick. China is very good at their propaganda. So everything they put out. So do you remember the Russians put out that like super armor that was supposedly able to stop like a Browning 50 cal machine gun?
Yep.
That armor 100% worked. What they didn't tell people is that like, yeah, we developed it. They left out the fact that they only were able to develop one. And so like some of the things that like China puts out, like, yeah, that's cool. That worked. How many of those do you have?
Well,
I'm just saying, like we've had the DARPA dogs for like a decade now. Someone's put guns on those things.
Yeah.
Someone's had to have.
Isn't that kind of the whole point of it though? Is for like China to make us kind of stir a little bit and kind of be, I mean, obviously it's propaganda, but like kind of just to keep them in our minds, you know what I mean?
That's all it is. All that propaganda. It's just like a show of force. It's the same reason we're in Okinawa.
Yeah.
It's like if we didn't have the presence we had in the Pacific, China probably would be acting a lot different.
Yeah.
How they would act, I don't know. But there's always that looming threat of just like, hey, if we do something that endangers Japan, Australia, even Taiwan, like U.S. might come knocking and be like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Right.
So that's like a lot of the stuff and they're doing the same thing. Like, hey, look what we got. Maybe if we do act up, you don't actually want to do anything about it. It's just like a back and forth of just like, hey, look how big my arms
A
are.
lot of peacocking.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going on.
I feel like Russia's the biggest peacocker right now. Like, I feel like they're definitely the ones, like, he's just like trying to push all the boundaries right now. Just trying to, like, all the Florida stuff or the Cuba stuff got really, people were just, I mean, irate about that. Obviously, that was the big headline.
Well, you heard what we did, right? To answer back to that.
I didn't even follow up with that.
So our nuclear subs are like the highest classified material, their location at least. Like they keep those things on the secret. And for the first time in a very long time, we announced that we hit that port like a few days after them. And so like while Russia got there and it was like, yeah, okay, cool. Russia, because we kind of started saying, hey, Russia's getting close, this and that. And then Russia popped up and it was like official kind of thing. It was basically like us saying, like, hey, we tracked you to that port and then you confirmed that you were there. You didn't know we showed up.
Right.
We had to announce it to you.
Right.
So remember that.
Wow, that's interesting.
We're secretly everywhere. That's why it's Team America World Police.
Yeah. No kidding.
How that works.
No kidding. Well, I don't think people even knew that we were still really had a huge presence in the Pacific. I feel like they kind of they lose out on that. And it's like, well, duh, we have to, we're keeping them in check a little bit. I feel like
we have bases everywhere.
Yeah.
There's bases I don't know about. Like, not that they're like secret, just like they're like small, like very rarely do people go there.
Right.
I know one of my buddies, he got sent to Dubai for a base. I didn't even like when he said, yeah, I'm going to Dubai. I was like, oh, on vacation? He goes, no, I'm stationed there.
Yeah, that's not one you would think about at all, for sure. Jeez.
I was like, oh,
I'm
man,
going with him.
Going with him.
Oh man.
Like, that sounds terrible. Going to Dubai. He had a great time. But like yeah, one of my other friends like did this like weird thing where he went, I think, to Colombia, and he was like helping their police, training them to do like river raids on drug cartel members.
Oh, wow.
There. Yeah. It was there's like just a bunch of odd places you can go that like people don't realize, like the US has a lot of influence all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Where it is, do you have like insight into like where you don't want to go, or where it's like somewhere, if you get that kind of station, you're just kind of like, oh God, like really?
Yeah. There's always stations that like I don't know about that when you get them and you look into them, you're just like, oh, what am I doing? But like the smaller the station gets, the more hand selected it is.
Right.
So it's not like one day they're going to be like, hey, Staff Sergeant Barracks, you're going to be going to this country you never heard of to man this base, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would have to actually like request
it.
Probably
Yeah.
go there. Sometimes they can, like if you have a good like service record and they're having trouble filling the billet, that can happen. Like, so like where I'm currently at right now in Virginia was a hand-picked spot that I didn't necessarily put in for. One of my buddies who knew the spot was opening up reached out to the monitor, which if you don't know, a monitor is kind of like, hey, this is your job. I tell you where you go all over the world in the Marine.
Gotcha.
To meet staffing rules. And so he said he's a good fit. He does a lot of good things. He'd be perfect for this. So I did kind of like an interview with the monitor, and he said, yep, you're going there.
Awesome.
Here I am.
Yeah. Now, where were you at previously? Were you in?
I was in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Okay. Gotcha.
Camp Lejeune.
Gotcha.
Place you probably keep hearing about all the disgusting
bad water.
Yeah. Tough. That's a tough scene. That's a tough look.
You only hear about bad water in Flint, Michigan, and Camp Lejeune. That's about it.
Yep. Absolutely. So what's next for you? I mean, Kyler, like, is it more, I mean, just kind of what's the next stage for you? Like, what are you looking at? Like, what's your future look like? Maybe on the strength and conditioning side, maybe on the military side of things, kind of like, do you have Is it just day to day right now, or is it you got a future planned out, or what's it kind of looking like for you?
So I don't have like I have like this is where the routes that I have open to me. I don't have necessarily like end goals, like I want
Right.
to be at this. Uh because most likely, all in all, I'm probably gonna go do the 20 years and then retire and then have that. So that's always gonna be there. But now that I'm back into more of an instructor role, I do want to like focus more on my business because I'm sure you guys know, like while I was at an instructor role, like I was really big on Instagram, posting every day, this and that. And then I got to this new unit where I was deployable, going to the field a lot. It'd be like some weeks I'd be on, some weeks I'd be off. I'd disappear for like 3 months, then come back and stuff like that. So I really want to focus on getting my business back up and running, like putting out content. Uh, I don't really look to get like a lot of money from my business, though, like a little bit of extra income is always nice. But I just like teaching people how to like, keep yourself fit. Like there's a lot of people that hit me up that are like gunnies and mass sergeants who are like 36 to 40 that hit me up and like, dude, I don't know how you're still training as old as you are now. I need your help because I'm like broken. And I love helping them out so that they don't need to contact someone like me. They can just be the fit person that they want to be. But for my immediate future, I'm going to do this instructor billet, hopefully learn a few things along the way, go to some courses. I do plan on doing another selection for higher tier special operations, something I want to do. I do not like, as much as I do instructor billets, I don't actually really like instructing because I just feel like I'm the guy sitting in air conditioning while I teach these guys, hey, this is how you do this thing. Now go to war while I sit on my chair and in comfort. I don't like that. I want to be the guy doing stuff. So I do plan on putting my bid in once I can and once I figure out where I want to go because I still have options, but that's going to be a thing. If that doesn't work out, then I will probably just go back to the fleet.
If that does work out and you do get selected, is that just kind of like where you'll spend the rest of like those 20 years that you're talking about? You'll just kind of ride that till the end? Or is that how that'll work?
So if I make it into special operations, most likely I'll probably do more than 20 full years. I'll do I'll do basically until my body says
No,
no more.
thanks. Gotcha.
Yeah. Uh, like that's typically how it works is those guys just kind of go until until basically their body says no more or they hit 35. I believe there's a hard cap at 35 total years. Um, we'll see. They're pretty good about like once you get to a certain point too, like putting you into more of a leadership desk, support role to where it's like, okay, now you've been there, done that, a thing or two. Now direct these people how to be the guys that do that. So it's not as intensive. And probably by the time I get to that point, I'll probably just be like, yeah, well, what's another 5 years?
Right.
More pay at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
What
But
what is so let's say someone does, because I see kids that still want to go into the military, which I think, if they want to go, let them. That's great. Get some kind of direction for their life. And it kind of gets demonized now. And people are like, oh, these recruiters are coming into schools and they're sniping these kids out when they don't really know what they want to do for their life and blah, 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 and this and that. And I'm like, no, I think it's great. I think it's something that can give them some direction. So what is a good, I guess you could say, way for kids to come into the military and like give them a good path that will help them maybe have a career in the military or be successful in the military? What's the best way to go about that? Is it go to like school or get the diploma, or is it just kind of based, case to case? What do you think is the best kind of way to get involved in the military for kids?
so for the military, it depends. Like getting your degree before you go into the military, you're qualified to be an officer, but not everyone can be an officer, and being an officer for even people that can be isn't always the right choice. Because like I remember I was in charge of a guy, he was a sergeant, he wanted to go be an officer. And I was like, look, the way you are, I know you love the military, you have your degree and all this. I don't think you'd be a good officer. And not because you're a bad leader, you know. I think you're a great leader. I just don't think that world is for you. And he just wouldn't listen to me, wouldn't listen to me. So I didn't plan it, but I ended up taking leave for like 3 weeks. And I was like, hey, you're in charge now. Live my day-to-day life because I'm the closest thing to an officer that you're going to get, being the staff non-commissioned officer, and tell me if you enjoy this lifestyle. And when I got back, he was just like, I don't want to be an officer anymore. Anyway, tell me about special forces. uh, but so like if you want to be in a world that is kind of political and not political in the sense of like who you know or like what you need to do, like you are the face of the brand. If you're an officer, like you have to put on a certain image. That includes your family and everything. And the higher you go, the more that's going to be prevalent. So if you are feel like you are a good leader, a self-starter, a person that can handle himself on his own, figure things out, and also can play the politics and likes being the representation of what they are joining, go officer. If you are just joining to get a skill, build a resume, then go enlisted and get those skills and make sure you're doing the job that builds those skills. So
Right.
like, let's say if you want college, like you want to become some type of tech or go get a degree, then don't just come in and like let the recruiter tell you, well, just go do this, this, or this, because then you're just going to end up hating your life for 4 years, and then you increase the chances of you doing something stupid because you're depressed all the time and getting kicked out, and then you get none of those benefits.
Right.
So do your research. If you want to become a mechanic, police officer, they have stuff that kind of goes alongside that. I know one guy that specifically went over to recon just so he could get his jump wings and start running skydiving stuff.
There you go.
I would not recommend that at all. Recon is super intensive,
Yeah.
but it's just one thing. There's stuff like that for everyone. But just like know what you want to do and just know that like when you get out of the military, and this is for anyone who thinks about going enlisted, whether you've done 4 years of college or not, you will be in the same position that you would be graduating college at like 21, 22, leaving the military with a ton more like life experience
Right.
with it. Also, so you're competitive for a lot of jobs. I'm not saying you're just going to get hired because you put veteran on your resume, but they actually teach you how to build your resume before you leave to say like, these are the skills that I have that I learned. And then they tell you like, these are the types of jobs you should look into. And so you send in this well-crafted resume, you're more likely to get hired. And then during that, you can have your college 100% paid for while you're in, or after you're out going in person.
It
I'm-
it never sounds like a
got
bad
my-
idea to me ever. And like
Yeah.
the way I've always heard it, I've never seen a bad thing like with them. Like I've never just seen it. And people now are just like they're picking these kids and taking them when when they don't know it. And I'm just like, shut up, like just shut up, like you have no idea what you're talking about. So
they've always complained about that. My mom complains
crazy.
about the same thing. I can't believe they're allowed to come to school.
I can think of one bad thing, Nathan. It's called PTSD. That doesn't sound like fun.
No, okay, all right, we got
You only really okay.
no.
Hold on, I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
There you
but
go.
PTSD, you're really only in danger of really getting that if you're going to like combat. We aren't at war, and also you can choose a job that kind of isn't exactly front lines. Like if you want to avoid PTSD, especially in peacetime, even though there's the threat of looming war, if war does pop off and you're like, let's say, a mechanic, yeah, you might get close to it, but you're not necessarily going to be on the front line.
Right.
Now, if you choose infantry,
Right.
I need you ready for that spicy memory flashback stuff. All right. Like I am going to yell at you and everything, but that's just your choice. Like I'm not going to hate on anyone, but if you want to join the military, PTSD should not be like, oh, I'm worried I'm going to get messed up. Like, brother, the people that get out and say, I got PTSD from getting yelled at, those aren't the people you want to listen to.
I wasn't thinking about getting yelled at because I know when I was young, I was like, I'd go shoot some people. That sounds like a good time. And, that's probably not the right choice. Obviously, why I didn't do it.
I made an opposite choice on that same thought process. And I turned out all right. I mean,
Yeah, that's fair.
sometimes, I twitch at night, but
what was your first like experience? Like you said, let's see, 14 years. So I mean, what's that? 2011, and so like
2010.
2010. So what was kind of your first experience?
So I joined. I remember. So I graduated in 2009, and my parents, well, my mom specifically, was like, "Hey, you will go to college. Like, I'm not letting you join while the Iraq War is going on.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to do it." And like, it just my whole high school was back and forth. I wanted to be like my dad. I want to join the military. I want to go do crazy stuff and like just be a badass because my dad's a badass and I want to be a badass. And she was just against it. So we came up with a deal. I do 2 semesters of college, basically my freshman year. And if I still had the inkling to join, uh, I can join because I'm 18 at that point. I can do whatever I want. But I had to give college an honest try, or she would just like cut me off. And I was like, okay. So I did a semester, tried to join a fraternity, this bunch of different stuff, um, and had a lot of fun. And then at the end of the day, I was just like, got to do it. And then I went to the recruiter's office, signed up, and was like shipped out within a month. I almost backed out, honestly, because when I was getting ready to go to MEPS to sign the contract to say I will go to boot camp, they officially was like, drawdown of Iraq, no more. And I was just instantly like, yep, not going to war. I'm out. And then like my recruiter was like, no, wait. There's still Afghanistan. And I was like, oh, you don't say.
Wow. Holy cow.
But went to boot camp, came back, went to my MOS school to learn how to be a motivated infantryman. Became a machine gunner as my primary occupation. And then went to a place called 29 Palms. It's in the middle of the desert and anywhere. And then 3 months after getting to 29 Palms, I was in Afghanistan. So before I even hit 1 year in the Marine Corps, including boot camp and my MOS school, which was a total of 5 months, I was in Afghanistan.
Wow. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's quite the experience to just be like, I went from this to that in 5 months. Holy moly.
Oh, it was wild because I went in April, and then I set foot in Afghanistan March of the next year.
I mean, you're what, 18, 19 at the time? So, I mean,
Yeah, I was 19.
did you just get the big eyes when you got there, or how did it finally hit you once you were there? Just like, okay, like this is kind of, it's a little eerie, or was it calm? I mean, how did that feel? Like, I don't know. That's crazy.
It was kind of surreal to me. Just
Right.
like, I'm really here. I'm really doing this. I wouldn't say I was scared. True fear didn't hit me until I first got shot at. And so like we were in Afghanistan, we went out. I had even seen some people get blown up before I got shot at, and it just didn't hit me. I just did what I was supposed to do.
Wow.
And then it was we were on a little patrol base that we had set up. We took over this abandoned building, and I got up on the roof, and people down below were digging, filling sandbags so that we could fortify our positions. And I was sitting there drawing what's called a range call, which is just basically like you're taking what sectors you're supposed to be watching and like sketching out distances, how it looks, so that as you go through like these posts, someone else comes up, they can look at it and go, okay, yeah, I see the sectors now. I see this. I know where to look. I know what's going on. And I was just sitting there, and then I just hear this loud snap, like sound like someone just like blew a firecracker up right next to my ear. And I just like kind of like looked up, when I looked at my section leader, who like looked at me, and he like looked around because I don't know if you know this, but the sonic boom from a 7.62 going by sounds exactly like a 5.56 weapon firing.
Okay.
So we thought someone negligently discharged.
Gotcha.
Which
Okay.
is just like they were carrying their bam. And so he like looks around and goes, did someone just ND? And everyone like looked at each other and was like, no, no one indeed. And then like this corporal stands up. He goes, all right, someone just fess up. Who the fuck indeed? Because we had just gotten there. Like we didn't think that there was no way that like they were already moving on us. And then it had happened again. This time, one of my sandbags blew up because they hit it. So then, like I remember dropping down to the ground, and like I remember it just coming over my body, like this is real.
God.
I could die. And just kind of just started running on autopilot at that point. You really do, like they say, you fall back on like your training. And I did. Like I could only tell you of one moment in that firefight because a lot of it's just a huge blur of just like running around and trying to defend our position.
Wow.
And the only thing I remember was because I felt like time slowed down was they shot an RPG at us. And it looked like it was heading right for me. It ended up like scaling way past. But for a minute there, I was staring at like the point of the warhead, and I was just like, well, I guess signing that contract wasn't too good of an idea. And then I just remember it whooshing past and then going, whoa.
Oh my gosh.
As if the first part wasn't enough to shit your pants.
Yeah.
God.
Jesus.
But some of the best memories
so
though,
easy for you.
Yeah.
Some of the best memories though that you will have, like people will tell you that are from like my era, like are just those deployments. Like even though like yes, a lot of people got PTSD, stuff like that, but like some of your fondest memories with friends, because you get very, very close with all that trauma and just like danger around you, come from deployment. Like I can like vividly remember a lot of jokes that we would tell, things that we would do. Whereas some of these other deployments I've done, it's like moments just are like going, and then it just seems like all of a sudden, like, hey, deployment's over.
I can't imagine what the adrenaline dump is like after something like that, where you're in that and then all of a sudden you're not, and you have to kind of try to like compartmentalize like what the hell just happened. Like how high do you go and then just how low, and everyone just kind of standing around or like looking at each other like, holy hell, like we're here. It's like I just can't imagine going from that high to that low like that quick.
I actually have something that actually perfectly emulates what it feels like. Have you ever played a video game to where you're so focused and locked in that when you stop you're shaking?
Oh yeah 1000%.
It feels exactly like that.
Wow. Except it's real, Kyler. It's freaking real, brother.
But I'm just saying, like, so you have like you have experience, because the body can only dump so much.
Right.
I remember I played a video game after that, and it was like Call of Duty or something. And it was one of the times I was really getting real sweaty with it, like all over the place. And I put it down, and I was like shaking, and I was like, hey, this is just like after we got in that firefight, like blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it just feels the same way. And then you feel like crap afterwards though.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Oh my gosh.
I can imagine with nothing to actually recover with.
That
sounds absolutely awful.
7 months of MREs.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I did find a Skittles packet that had a $2 million winner in it from 2007.
No way.
What? In 2011. Yes.
Oh my.
Can I send this in by any chance? Or?
So here's a theory, because it happens a lot with the M&Ms and Skittles packets from like older days.
Yeah.
I have a theory that those companies would announce those projects like, hey, if you pull this little thing open and it says $1 million winner, you get the $1 million winner. And they 100% print them, and then they send them all to the MRE factory to get packaged.
I mean, that's a good way to hedge your bets, right?
They're all just hiding, yeah. Oh my gosh. What a terrible ploy. That's so bad. God dang. Oh man. Yeah. Alex,
that's my working theory.
Alex, you got anything?
Back to the training, Kyler. Have you competed in powerlifting or strongman or anything like that?
So I did. I think my last competition was 2021. I haven't been able to compete just because I wasn't able to devote the time to it. You can even ask, I had Cooper take over my coaching for a little bit because I was just so busy that it was just like every other week I was like, hey, I'm gonna miss these 3 days because I got to go do this thing. To the point where I was just like, hey, dude, I'm dropping out of the competition because like I'm not getting any of the training that I need to even be close to successful. I do plan on doing it again uh, once I get settled here. I've done equipped, multiply, single ply, and raw with wraps, and then raw no wraps.
Which one did you prefer the most?
Honestly, like raw with wraps, probably the most. I don't know why. I could not tell you why. Um, I don't think it's the more weight because I honestly do hate putting wraps on because they're painful. But I don't know. I just feel like it's more exciting for me.
I would think that going from equipment back to non-equipment would not be as exciting because of less weight, but I mean, I don't know. I can tell you over the weekend when I'm one of the only raw lifters and everyone is just out lifting me, like this 16-year-old kid beat my total by 300 pounds. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's rough time out there.
Were you the only raw lifter out there?
No, there was a few of us, but
Okay, I
like
was about to say.
in my flight, I was one of the only raw lifters.
Gotcha. How many did you have in your flight?
In my flight, there was like 11 of us probably.
Gotcha. Okay.
But like Mike's kid, who's 16 and went 9 for 9 with his 1,600-pound total, was in my flight, and I'm like, Jesus fuck, like
Oh man,
got some fucking work to do.
Crazy.
But, I mean, I beat the guy I needed to beat. That's all. I felt bad for him too because he was in a flight before me. And on lifting cast, it'll tell you where you're projected to finish. So he gets his last deadlift done, and it says first. And I think he thought he won, and I had yet to even go. And I was like, oh, I feel real bad for this guy right now because like I had him like I basically won it in the squats. I was up by like almost 30 kilos after the squats. And so he did deadlifts and it showed him in first place and he was all excited. And then like, well, I haven't even gone yet though.
Yeah, that's got to be a huge advantage for you too, because you're just sitting there going, "Oh, okay." Like,
oh, the strategy part of winning was a lot more. It was a new thing for me, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I got to pick my attempts based on what he did.
Right. Yeah. How did your bench? You said your squat, you got all three, but how did your bench and dead go?
I failed the last two on bench and deads. I tried to get my gym PR on bench, and I got fucking halfway up, and I just couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
And deads, I just didn't have it. I tried for a PR, but got stuck at my knees again.
Oh no! Here come the rack pulls.
No, actually, I think it's the low box squats that helped my deadlift the most. Because my previous comp, I was doing a bunch of those, and my deadlifts felt great. And this one, I went to my regular box squat, and so I got to do 2 different forms of box squats now. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I've noticed too. If I fail a bench, I know my deadlift's gonna be trash because I probably put a lot into that bench. That's what like how I know how my deadlift's gonna go and kind of base my attempts off of. If I don't have really anyone that I'm competing against, I know, okay, that third bench went halfway up and then I just struggled with it for 10 seconds. My deadlifts probably are gonna be zonked out now.
I haven't competed yet. I just can't imagine getting to the deadlift after.
Honestly, my hips felt so good this time compared to the last time I deadlifted at the end of the competition. I was like, well, let's see what happens. I just picked bad movements for my deadlift this time. And I think part of it was I was doing the west side box squat to a 12-inch box, my previous comp, which did not carry over to my squat whatsoever. But I think it helped my deadlift tremendously. So this time when I squatted like I normally did to a box, my squat went up by 33 pounds, but my deadlift went down.
Gotcha.
I think I have to do both of them.
Oh boy.
Same to me.
Good luck finding a room for that in your psychotic mess of mystery.
Well, I'll just put it on my deadlift day. I'll do.
I honestly think the reason Westside gets such a bad rap in Raw is because in equipped lifting, roughly the same binding happens in the suit. So if a lift helps your squat, it's probably going to help your deadlift. But in Raw, that's not always the case. And it's like, I only have so many exercises that I can put into a session before I'm just doing too much. So I think sometimes it's like for people, like you said, like that low box squat was helping your deadlift a ton, but didn't help your squat. So you didn't really like it and you got rid of it. Now you're thinking, oh, that might've been actually a good thing to keep.
Right.
I like the program because that's like part of it. Like, oh,
finding
I
the
just
piece.
found,
yeah,
I just found the hidden gem. Now I got to find my next hidden gem.
Right.
Yeah, so I think next time I have a better idea, I'll do the rack pulls from pin 3, like Louis always had, and then I'll do the low box squats as my deadlift accessories.
Oh, yeah.
The RDLs I was doing did not fucking help at all.
Yeah.
RDLs are fun though. Did you guys ever do my 20-second RDL challenge or my
No.
1 minute?
Kyler,
No,
listen,
sure didn't.
anything you put on and you two tag me in your story, I love to see that you and I appreciate you tagging me in that, but brother, I ain't touching that shit, okay? I ain't doing it. I am not doing it. And then, oh dude, I loved it the other day. You tagged Cooper in the one where you just like tighten up the belt another notch when you slip a disc, and then Cooper shoots back and he's like, "No, you idiot. My spine is in good space, like a good place. I don't have to do that garbage," essentially, is what he was saying. I was like, yes, this is the Instagram content I'm here for, right here, baby. So, no, I will not be attempting any of your psychoticry. No, I will not. But I like to watch you.
One day we'll try it.
Yeah,
but,
one day.
God.
Maybe one day when I show up unannounced to the gym and
yeah,
that's what we need to do,
like,
Kyler.
it's
Me and you
time.
need to take a trip to Missouri and show Nathan what training should look like.
Oh, fuck me. I'll die.
These poor kids would be like, "What the fuck is this? What are we doing?"
Well, you'd probably have a mass exodus.
Bro, I don't know. Last night I killed them, and they literally all like 10 of them were laying here on the turf, and they were just like, "I can't move my legs." I'm like, good. Suffer and die, you clowns. I made them go to the 12-inch box after we did.
That's when I'd tell them to stand up and we're going to keep going. Oh, Kyler, you'd be happy. I took this one kid through like the most heinous fucking 15 minutes of cardio I could think of.
God.
Started with belt squat marches, and then we did them with a double rack kettlebell into the desk ski. And then from the desk ski, it was a max fucking airdyne bike, and then max effort on the rower. And then we did prowler pushes down and back for 100 yards. And then I made him carry a 120-pound sandbag for 100 yards. Like, he literally collapsed before he finished. He's like, I don't even know what happened. I just looked up and I was on my knees.
I saw something creative the other day that I'm going to have to try once I get another power pull. A guy had his power pull loaded with like 45s and he was leaned back and he was on the assault bike.
Yeah, that guy's fucking crazy.
That guy's a psychopath. Yeah.
I love it. One thing I came up with, this was a fan favorite of mine, and all the students that experienced it. But one day, I don't know if you know this, but sometimes the military, in order to get a point across, they will punish you with physical fitness training. And sometimes it can delve into the realm of what the military calls hazing and stuff like that. But you know, either tit for tat, it's either that or I do paperwork on you and ruin your career. So one of those things. But I was really mad at our sniper school students. I do not remember for what, but I was really, really mad. And I was like, look, listen, we're going to do stretcher carries. And they got all excited because they were like, stretcher carries. That means what we do is we put someone on the stretcher and we just rotate them out. So at some point you get a break. But no, I came out and I took 2 barbells. I put a 45 on each side of those barbells, and then I tied them together so that they were about this width, roughly the width of a stretcher. And I told them to carry it like a stretcher, which was really hard because I don't know if you know this, but the sleeves are really fat and they roll. So you can't like grip them the way you're supposed to. And they tried putting them up on the shoulders, and I was like, nope, you can't do that. You're going to carry it the low carry. And we went around and we were just running around everywhere. And then every time we stopped somewhere, I added something like the prowler sled, and then the drag sled, and then these 220-pound kettlebells that we had to magically get to some extract point. It was great. But I think the greatest moment was these kids were dying carrying the stretcher. They were very upset because it was because of one person that they were doing all this. And the colonel of the entire area, like the guy who you don't want seeing this kind of stuff happen, comes out as we're running by. And I can hear them going, it's the colonel. We're going to be safe. He's going to make Staff Sergeant Barracks stop. And he looks and he comes over and he goes, what the hell is going on over here? What are they doing? And I was like, sir, we're doing a Kazovac drill. He goes, how's this Kazovac? And I said, well, because we've ran into a problem of dropping the stretcher with students on it and they get a concussion because they hit the pavement, I decided to use barbells instead because that's roughly 265 pounds, and a guy in full kit, that's roughly the same weight. And he goes, "That's genius. Carry on," and walked off. And I turned around with this smile on my face. I was just like this. And they all were looking at me like, "No, this can't happen. We were supposed to be saved." And we just kept on going. But that's when I became pretty infamous because that was pretty early in my career. Because then like guys went back and told horror stories like, "Hey, dude, do not screw up at sniper school because once they unleash Staff Sergeant Barracks, like the colonel didn't even stop them. Like, you're not safe."
It's all over.
Yeah.
That's pretty good to come up with that on the spot too, or just when you know you have to come up with something. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it. There's a lot of other things that we did. Like I used to take my big roller and they'd have to carry it on their packs, and then every so often I'd add a 10 in there. It's great. Humvee
Anything today
pushes.
is all about context.
Right. Yeah,
Always
1000%. Oh man, Kyler, is there anything else that you have for us, or you'd like to talk about, or give a shout out to, or plug if you want? I mean, if anyone doesn't follow Kyler on Instagram, you definitely should, because when he does come back to Instagram, he's always going to give you the same camera angle of him in front, kind of at this weird side angle of his squats with very open-legged position and giving you that deep squat, you know. So I always know when Kyler's back because I see the first squat video. I'm like, he's back, baby. Here we go. Squat videos. So
it's always that same angle because I refuse to buy a tripod.
It's every time. Like every time I'm like, oh, he's got a story. I click it and it's like that angle right there. And it's just the most perfect thing in the world. So
yeah, I'll probably leave out on this. So as far as being like that do or die mentality and how to build it, you just got to remember a few things. One, you have to have the performance level to be able to like do anything along the lines of like, I will continue to push, because once your body gives out, it just gives out. Two, you need to expose yourself to a lot of different things, especially if you're going to be joining the military. You have to have some exposure to it so you know what you're getting into. So if you know you're going to be doing selections, you need to be ruck running. And I'm not telling you to ruck run every day, but at least get a heavy pack on your shoulders to understand what that feels like and know what's coming for you. And if you actually want to do that. And then three, perception. Get yourself in like a zone to where like you do a hard thing and then the rest of it just looks easy. But also keep in mind that once you do that hard thing and the rest of it looks easy, you will not know when you're pushing too hard, and it will ruin pretty much all your workouts for the rest of your life. And the same thing, there's times I will get out of the garage and I'll be like, I had a good workout, and then all of a sudden I'll sit down and my wife is like, I think you pushed too hard again because you're not moving. And I was like, yep, I did. So just keep in mind those three things are the big things that'll help you boost your ability to push through hard stuff. But with anything, there's always too much.
Unless it's Ghost Energy Drink. Shout out Ghost Energy Drink. We thank you for, no, I'm just kidding. There's never enough. No, Kyler, thank you again for spending some time with us today. We greatly appreciate it. It's like I said, I've been wanting to have you on here for a long time just to catch up and talk shop and hear everything that you get to do. So again, we also appreciate your service, man. So thank you for what you do. I couldn't thank you enough for what you guys do and for defending us and protecting us. So we greatly appreciate that as well, man.
Well, thank you very much. Always appreciated. I just love this country, so why not defend it?
There you go. If you guys...
Thanks, man. Without you, we don't get to sit around and talk shit every week.
Exactly.
I know, right?
Really, greatly appreciate
It'd be government-sponsored podcasts where you just talk about all the good things going on.
We don't want that.
No, we ain't.
I was thinking about that this weekend. I was like, the things that have changed in the year I've done a podcast have been tremendous.
Yeah, that is good reflection. Holy cow, you wouldn't realize it, but that definitely is. Holy moly.
That was the best part of me and Anthony. He's like, wow, you're way more jacked in real life. I was like, yes.
I was wondering if that was who said that. When you put that quote on there, I was like, yeah, Anthony probably said that. Or
Yeah,
Mike.
he saw me. He's like, that's the first thing he says. Like, wow, you're more jacked in real life than you are on Instagram. I was like, yes, fucking A.
It's always the goal.
Yeah.
Nice. Well done. Well, thank you again, Kyler. We'll let you get back to the rest of your day. We'll get this up as soon as we possibly can. We'll link Kyler's socials in the description below. So if you want to go check him out, you're more than welcome to go do that and check out that wonderful camera angle that he's got going on for everybody. So,
oh yeah, it's the greatest.
He's the king of man spreading, as they would call it.
There you go.
PC world.
That's the
All
goal.
right, man. Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You
Thanks,
as
man.
well.